To build Gimkits, go to gimkit.com. If you've not already, please follow my instructions in the Google slide on how to sign up for the Gimkit Pro membership, which our district has paid for. These directions can be found in the Instructional Tools and Strategies guide. Once you're logged in, you should see in the bottom left your name in Gimkit Pro, as long as you've signed up correctly to use those Pro features. And in the upper right, you'll see New Kit. That's essentially what they call their game, New Game. Fill in the name of the quiz that you want, the language, and then whatever subject it is that you teach. It will automatically populate with some great images for you. I want more just technology. That'll work. And then once you've started creating, you've got some options for how you want to create your game. There is this very new Create with Flashcards feature. Gimkit is now friends with Quizlet. So if you have Quizlet flashcards already built, it can automatically build your Gimkits based off of your Quizlet flashcards. You can just traditionally add questions. You can do a kit collab, which is where your students will actually come up with the review questions, and then you will approve whether or not those questions are good questions, and then those will become a game. You can add questions from a question bank that you've already established, or if you're really fancy, you can have an import from spreadsheet. I'm just going to do a traditional add question. We'll see that I have a place for me to write my question. If I want to add a photo to accompany my question, or if my question relies on an image, which my math teachers might end up using, you can add a photo. You can add audio in there for my Spanish teachers. If you hit this little book on the right, you get a symbol keyboard. The second you start typing again, that symbol keyboard disappears. And then we have our answers down here. Just to make your life easy, I would always type your answer that is correct in this first spot, because Gimkit is going to shuffle the answer choices. So just because it looks like it's the first answer choice for you, that does not mean it's going to be the first answer choice for your students. So you are free to always write your answer that is correct up at the top, and then all of your distractors can go below that. You can set multiple answers to be correct. You can also use photos instead of text, but you cannot use photo and text. And the symbol keyboard is available for each of your answer choices as well. Notice that I have 4 answers and 4 answers only. I always have to have 4 potential answers. I can't have 2, I can't have 5. Gimkit requires me to always have 4 answer choices. I'll go ahead and hit add, and then over on the left I can continue to hit add question, and when I'm finished I can hit finish kit. So here's one where I've already typed up a whole bunch of questions, and when I'm ready I can hit play. Now Gimkit functions very much like Kahoot, but there are more options, and it's all money based. The winner of the game has earned the most money. You earn more money each time you answer a question correctly. And if you go kind of on a streak like we might see in Kahoot, where you're answering multiple questions in a row correctly, you earn more and more money. Now, unlike something that we sometimes see in Kahoot, if we get a question wrong, you get subtracted points, subtracted money. So people could end up going all the way back down to 0 if they're just trying to answer really quickly instead of answering accurately. Now, like I said, there are many different ways that we can play. So I usually like to play with just classic, where students are competing individually. and for a certain amount of time. Now, maybe 10 minutes is a little excessive. Maybe I bump that down to like 8 minutes. But essentially what's going to happen is I have a 15-question Gimkit that my students are going to play for 8 minutes. Unlike with Kahoot, where students are answering all together, students in Gimkit are answering at their own individual pace. They can see the questions and the answers on their own individual device, and they can take as long as they need to on questions. Because there are 15 questions, students will probably get through those questions prior to 8 minutes elapsing. So what's going to happen is the questions are going to repeat and repeat and repeat as many times as students need them within that 8 minutes of time. Each time the answers will shuffle, so kids aren't just able to remember what button to press, they still have to think about it. This is a really great way to force kids to learn vocabulary in particular, because it's forcing them to do that constant exposure that kids need when learning new, difficult vocabulary. So again, the way I'd recommend starting with Gimkit is using the classic students compete individually for a set amount of time. Once you've kind of familiarized yourself more with Gimkit and how your students respond to Gimkit, you could perhaps change it from classic to time to classic race, where students have to race to get to a certain amount of money. The default is $1 million, which I think is way too much. Maybe I would set that back to like $1,000 to get started. So whoever gets to $1,000 first would win, whereas with time, it's whoever has the most money by 8 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever you set it into. If you want your students to kind of still be competitive but work together as a whole class team, you can do this all-in option where all players are trying to earn as much money as they can, but you win when the whole class reaches this amount. They have it set to $20 million as the default. Again, that seems way too high to me, but what's great by starting off with time and doing that a few times first, you'll get a sense of how much money your kids are earning, which will then allow you to realize what a realistic goal for the race or all-in options are. Okay, so those are all of the ways that you could play classically with students competing individually. But there's also a team mode where Gimkit will automatically team kids up and they'll have to work together as teams. The default is 4 players for teams, but this is an adjustable figure. You could set it to 2. I've also seen where teachers will divide their class in half and have students working on one iPad. That probably wouldn't be great in a class of 30, but if you have a small class of, say, 15 students, you could set your players to team as 7, and that would divide your class into 2. And then just like with classic mode, you have the option of doing it for time to see how much money can be earned in that certain amount of time. You have the option of students racing to earn a certain amount of money, or you have the class kind of working together to earn an amount of money as the whole class. Once you've decided which way you want to play the game, you have some options as to whether you want to give your students money to start. I like to start them at 0. You can set how low their money can go. So the default here is that they can go as low as -50. The default, it has answer check on, meaning that if a student gets the question wrong, they can check to see what the correct answer was, and they can learn what the correct answer was. I am of the mindset that, this is formative, this is meant for students to learn, so I like to keep answer check on. You can decide whether or not to have the music on. I think the music adds a lot of fun to it, so I like to keep the music on. Clapping by default is on, but you'll notice I had it turned off. What happens with clapping is when the game is over, students will be able to hit a button on their iPads so that they can kind of applaud the winners, and it's kind of obnoxious, so I like to turn clapping off. Join in late, I like to keep on so that if a student arrives into my classroom late, they can still join in the game. So, as I said, students are earning money as they play this Gimkit. And they can use that money not only just to win traditionally, but to purchase things through the Gimkit shop. And that makes things really fun and kind of adds a little extra strategy to it. If you don't want students to use their money in that way, you can turn those power-ups off. You can turn themes off. But I think that that's a lot of the fun of Gimkit and what differentiates it from other games. So I like to keep those things on. Some power-ups you might see are that students can purchase the right to earn more money per question. They can purchase the right to earn more money when they go on streaks. But there are also some kind of naughty power-ups that put other players at a disadvantage. So they could purchase the right to freeze another player, for instance. So if they're looking at the leaderboard and they see that Jemiah is in the lead, they can freeze Jemiah, which means that for 15 seconds she can't use her iPad at all. And that's just kind of a way that kids can kind of strategize and have a little fun with each other and get a little competitive. Maybe the first few times you play it, you want to get a feel for things without students putting others at a disadvantage. If you don't want students putting each other at a disadvantage, you're going to want to turn this clean power-ups only on. That means the only power-ups that they can purchase are ones that are going to help themselves, not ones that are going to hurt others. But I think those power-ups that hurt others are a lot of fun and that kids really enjoy them. So I would recommend that you leave this off so that they do have the ability to do those power-ups. Like I said though, you might want to play the first couple of times with clean power-ups only on, just to get a feel for what your classroom culture is like during this game. So once you have set your settings, and once you have set how you want to play the game, let me get myself back to classic time, 8 minutes. You'll hit this continue, and this is going to look very similar to Kahoot. Your students are going to gimkit.com/play in Safari, and they're typing in this join code. They'll be prompted to put in their name. I like to tell them that I am grading it for their participation and that I need their actual name so that I can put in a grade for them. I often don't put in a grade for them, but I just like to know exactly who is who, and that avoids anyone putting in anything inappropriate in as their name. So that is my strategy for getting kids to put in their actual names. I also will tell them something like, you've got 20 seconds to get your name in. If your name isn't in those 20 seconds, then we're hitting play and you've got to scramble to catch up, and now you're at a disadvantage. Once I see all of their names come in, I'll hit this start game and I will see a leaderboard of how everyone is doing. If you would like to finish the game before the time is up, in the upper right there is an end game button, and we'll see who our top winners are. In the upper right there is also a view report button where we'll be able to see more in detail how everyone did.